After discontinuing the beloved oracles and agros, many long-time Evolv fans had one question on their mind. What was in store for Evolv's future lineup? The answer came with the release of the revamped Shaman range, combining the best of what each shoe had to offer in a series of 4 variations. And now, like a cherry on top of a delicious chocolate dessert, the Shaman Pro makes its debut to complete the lineup once and for all. Quick disclaimer, Evolv have sponsored this video by sending me this pair of Shaman Pros to review, but we made it very clear that I wouldn't be holding back in my critiques and it would be an unfiltered and unbiased review of the shoe, which they were more than happy to agree to. Ballsy, but I like it. The redesign gives the Shamans a sportier look and feel with a yellow, white and grey colorway on the high volumes and a purple, white and grey on the low volumes. Though the vibrant blue and orange of the old models, I admit I wasn't ever really against. I thought that they had its own unique charm, but with the new look, you can see how Evolv have made the move to cater more for the growing modern market, which I think is important in this day and age, with many new climbers being drawn in more and more by the look rather than the actual performance or fit of the shoe. A trap I do admit to falling for myself, but hey, I can justify it as a shoe reviewer, so keep supporting the channel so I can continue to make these poor financial decisions. Now, regarding the upgrades from the old model, the heel has been slimmed down and raised 10mm deeper, with an increase in tension for more secure heel hooks. An inner lining around the heel has been included for comfort, a slimmer tongue design for an improved fit, and a thinner, more flexible toe rubber, which I assume just helps eliminate hot spots on the toe by giving the top of the shoe a bit more give. I actually really like the feel of the heel overall. 10mm might not seem like much, but it does give the shoe a more secure feeling overall when I wear it. And the inner lining around the heel is one of those nice to have features that just help with alleviating the painful rubbing that some shoes end up causing. Definitely not a big deal, but like I said, it is nice to have. Now, before I dive into the shoe's performance, a quick shout out to our other sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, for helping bring this video to all you legends out there. If you're not already on it, you should definitely take this chance to try it out and join the 80+ million players already playing the game. It's totally free to play, and just like choosing the right shoe for the right job, allows players to fully customize their champions to suit their style of play. With so many unique heroes available, you can't help but imagine how cool it would be to swap tales of adventures with some of these heroes over dinner and a cold one. Personally, I choose the company of Sile, Kyoku and Venus because of, well, I have my reasons. But to explore all these awesome characters, be sure to download the game and help us reach our goal of 30 installs and build the Climbers Crag raid clan. During April, the legendary egg hunt is giving players the chance to win some sick in-game items and real-life prizes including Amazon gift cards with a total value of $20,000. While this event is specifically for new players, existing players can also join in on the hunt. Just head over to egghunt.plarium.com to get your special promo code and redeem your prize. As always, Raid are also giving our viewers the chance to score an epic hero to add to their lineup. This month, it's Calendar Shrike, as well as potions, energy refills, and other goodies, just by signing up using the link in the description below or using the QR code currently on the screen. Thanks again for Raid for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to business. The slimmer tongue for fit I understand in theory, but I actually really like the one built in with the old model. It made it feel cushioned and actually really comfortable to wear. But you can see here when I do have them on, the tongue does leave a bit of space and it doesn't fully cover the top of my foot because of it. The pros opted for a full redesign instead, taking out the split in the center and turning it into a single piece construction. Overall, it's not really something that stands out as a pro or a con, but it does make it harder to slip on, especially during the break-in period. The thinner toe rubber I'm impartial to as well. The relatively high clearance of the shoe has never really been a problem for me, and that's coming from someone with a wider foot profile, so for me that upgrade isn't really something that's relevant other than maybe to give me that extra flexibility for freedom of movement. Interestingly, each of the Shamans actually sport a different closure system, with the base models using a 3-strap Velcro closure, similar to the original, which still allows a decent level of customized fit. But for a complete personalized fit, you really can't beat the Shaman lace, which has been included in the range to supersede the oracles, which unfortunately I don't actually have. I was honestly this close to buying the lace, just because personally I think that they look sick, but end of the day I opted for the Velcro just out of convenience as a boulderer who needs to take them on and off again quite frequently. The pros on the other hand take a bit more of a middle ground with the cross-strap Velcro system, which helps combine the advantage of both systems that I just mentioned. Personally, I'm not a big fan of these types due to the wear that the strap loops and the buckles can sustain during toe hooks, creating burrs that end up cutting into the strap, which has been an ongoing complaint of La Sportiva solution wearers, and as you can see, a similar situation here with my Phantoms. Each of the models have a 1.6mm half-length plastic midsole at the toe end, which adds stiffness to the shoe for stronger edging performance, with the base and lace models using the dark spine heel to add more rigidity to the back, while the pros instead use a thinner 1mm tension rubber midsole to give the shoe more flexibility overall. But despite the thinner midsole, the stiffness feels almost comparable all up to the base models. Calling it the Pro model with the intention of making it softer for better smearing capability and parkour movements for competition climbing, the shoe would have been better off taking out the midsole completely or opting for an even thinner mid or outsole for more sensitivity, flexibility, and mobility. Instead, we're left with a shoe that moves and feels all too similar to its base model with the alternative closure system that some of you may prefer, but personally, it's not really my thing. Is it softer? Sure, noticeably so. In my opinion, maybe just over barely, though I admit that it'll probably continue to soften with a bit of extra time, since I've only really had the opportunity to wear them for less than a month. In saying all that, just because it feels like the standard Shamans doesn't actually make it a bad shoe. In fact, it's the opposite. The baseline of the Shamans is already a fantastic shoe to begin with, so it's a far cry from a downgrade. But rather, the Pro Tag and the cross strap systems feel like the biggest changes, which really just comes down to aesthetics. The stiffness provided by the midsole and the 4.2mm of Trax rubber makes the shoe an absolute edging monster. Coupled with the infamous Evolv love bump at the base of the toe and the extra aggressive downturn of the new design, the big toe ends up in a strong crimp position to give even more driving power onto the smallest of edges. The love bump does take a little bit of getting used to. It initially felt like a soft stone in your shoe that's kind of annoying, but after a session or two, you don't even really notice it too much. The rubber outsole is thicker than a lot of climbing shoes out there, so the sensitivity of the shoe is compromised a bit in favor of more support, and the longevity of the shoe also benefits from this with more rubber to inevitably burn through before needing a resole. The Trax SAS rubber utilized is one of my preferred rubbers on the market, comparable in sticking power to Batora and Black Diamond's Neofuse, and softer and stickier than XS Grip 2. Though that stickiness that comes with a soft rubber does come with a price, wearing out much faster, so again the 4.2mm thickness does prove to be a great choice by the designers at Evolv to balance out that longevity and that stickiness. That same stickiness makes smearing on blank faces and indoor volumes an absolute walk in the park, giving you unshakable confidence in trusting your shoes not to slip. But the stiffness dilutes that sensitivity of really knowing how you're moving and standing on those holds, and limiting foot mobility overall, which is why personally, for me, the shoe does get sidelined a lot on my bouldering days, because for faster movements, the shoe just feels kind of clunky, making it hard to move how I really want. Of course, that's where the Pro line kicks into gear to give you that extra boost in mobility, but again, the softness isn't as soft as I was expecting, which I guess helps to avoid crossing over into the territory of their Zenith line. The extra 10mm of coverage on the heel, like I said before, feels snug and secure, never really feeling like it's peeling off and giving me confidence to really crank on those harder heel hooks. Though similar to the forefoot, the heel does suffer with the same sensitivity issues, making it hard to know if you've placed it well enough on finer edges. On the Pros, the sock lining actually sits that little bit higher, making it feel even more secure on the foot than it already did. So that's definitely a positive for me. Toe hooking is comparable to any other high-end shoe on the market, despite the stiffer midsole. And the only consideration is that closure system, with the cross straps taking a lot of wear on the buckles, the laces taking the wear obviously on the lace, which surprisingly probably holds out the best out of all the models, and has the benefit of actually being easily replaced if they do end up tearing. And the outer material of the straps on the base models take a little bit of a shredding, which has caused a bit of the stitching to come undone, but overall still holding out quite well. So where does the shoe actually best shine, and who is it intended for? Whether you have a wide or narrow foot, I think that regarding fit, the Shamans actually will fit quite a lot of different foot profiles. I sit on the wider end of the spectrum with a more narrow heel, and the shoes feel really nice for me. Maybe that tiny bit more tightness around the heel would be nice, but that's specifically for me and my foot shape. I found that anytime it's felt like it's slipping, I've been able to just tighten the last strap a bit more, which ends up solving the problem. Now, for those of you wanting that all-important sizing guide, I stayed true to size, getting a US 6.5 for my 6.5 feet. So for those wanting a bit more comfort fit, feel free to size half a size up. And for those wanting that ultra tight blood stopping squeeze, feel free to go down that half size as well. But for me, I like to get the advantage of a performance fit without cutting off all the circulation to my toes and wanting to cut my foot off. Unfortunately, as a boulderer primarily, I don't really think that these are the best shoes for the discipline, at least in an indoor setting. While they are great on certain climbs that require driving power from the big toe, its accuracy is diminished due to the midsole and thickness of the rubber, so for those times when I want to know what I'm standing on, unfortunately, the Shamans do leave me a little bit blind. Funnily enough, its negative points are what makes this shoe my favorite for outdoor sessions and sport climbing, with the stiffness giving me more stability and reducing fatigue on longer routes, and that clunkiness actually helping me drive off micro edges with more power and taking my mind off trying to be overly accurate with my footwork as I try to reduce that wear and tear, knowing that the shoes are built like a tank, protecting my foot and performing how I want them to however I decide to climb. Over the past few months of using the Shaman range, I've made my Shaman straps my go-to indoor sport shoe, mostly just because I'm trying to keep them looking clean and less beaten from outdoor projecting. With my old models being my first choice as my outdoor go-to, both for sport and bouldering, since it's just been so reliable, which might surprise a few of you who know how much I praise my theories, but quite frankly, I just really like the extra stiffness that I get from my Shamans and that extra bit of grip that you get from Trax SAS. Bit of a side note, if you can get your hands on them, I totally recommend snagging yourself a pair of the old Shamans while you can, with lots of shops reducing the price to get rid of the old stock, making this shoe an absolute bargain right now. I was honestly torn on giving out that information just because I didn't want people buying them out before I did. Just leave the 6.5s for me and I won't have to hunt you down and flash your project in front of your gym crush. Deal? There are only two shoes I would go out of my way to actually rebuy right now, and specifically for outdoor climbing, the Shamans are definitely one of them. The Pros I'd actually probably opt for over the base models purely to get that extra little bit of extra sensitivity out of them, but still having that stiffness for support and driving power. There are minor differences between the models, but in that situation, I just opt for the one that just leans a little bit more to my style of climbing. If you have the standard models and are thinking about getting the Pros, I'd personally say don't bother unless you really love the Shaman fit and want that small bit of extra mobility that these provide. Thanks again for Evolv for sending out the Pros for me to try, and props for letting me freely discuss my opinions with everyone in the community. If you have other thoughts or questions, leave a comment down below, and if you like this video, let us know what other shoes you'd like for us to review in the future. I'm Bayron, Climbers Crag's resident gear nerd. Make sure to hit that subscribe and like button, and I'll see you legends next time.